Zealand now of the place of the Western Front in New Zealand's war history. I think we've all become aware of Gallipoli, rightly so, but the Western Front was also a place where our losses were much heavier, in fact. And I would like to think the fact that our unknown warrior has come from there will increase awareness of the history that we have on the other side of the world in that place.
Well, as you can see, we're up now in more the business end of the city, away from the skyscrapers and the like of, well, the tall buildings, I should say, of Lambton Quay. And that must mean that Governor General is arriving.
And any minute now, the warrior is going to come within sight of his final resting place. There he is, coming round the corner now, and within view of the entourage will be the National War Memorial. Of school children.
Yes, lining, watching. Been a lot of that. There were cadets to see him out of Parliament, lining his procession way there, and here the youngsters from the schools nearby come out to pay their respects.
Of course, more formal ceremony will take place here, as it did in the cathedral.
It's a sort of handover time as well, in that the Army Band now will be replaced by the Royal New Zealand Navy Band, which is waiting just to the right of this escort as they march on through. And Principal Defence Chaplain there, Colonel Ragg, will play the central part in this interment, but as in the cathedral will be joined by those of many faiths for the committal.
It's interesting. I'm sure that there will be tears at this service, as there have been along the way. And I was reminded of the mayor of Longueval, whom I mentioned before, Monsieur Jean Blondel, the mayor of this small town, whom I was told at the time he was very emotional when he was talking with the Chief of Defence Forces before the handover in France. And I'm told by somebody that every year there are Anzac Day services held in this village, and the mayor is unable to get to the end of them without weeping. So the New Zealand and French connection here is very strong.
And among the very distinguished guests at the cathedral has been the ambassador for France, to make sure, if you like, that line all the way from Europe to here is continued and the connection is strong.
We now have a shared memory arrangement with France, which the Prime Minister signed earlier this year in Paris, and that's to do with recognising the the very strong connections between New Zealand and France because of the thousands of men who fell on French fields.
So the service which will proceed here is in two parts. First of all, down on the bottom of the forecourt there, where you can just see a group of figures standing, and then a casket will be carried up to the site of the tomb, which is, as we saw earlier when we began this report, just outside the main door. So they're the honorary military pallbearers marching off, having escorted our warrior this far. And now there is to be more work, and oh dear, can you say one part of it is any more significant than another? They will carry him to his final resting place, with a slight pause for the blessing at the lower part of the National War Memorial. That New Zealand ensign will remain on the casket until almost the last moment. Then, as part of the ceremony, it will be handed over to the chair of the National War Memorial Advisory Council, Colonel Renton Green, for safekeeping, to be kept as a memento and guarded as a taonga.
3 paces forward. March. Your party will prepare to lift.
That sense of the taonga is important. The kaumatua, Reverend Bert McLean, whom I was speaking of before, who created for us the image of the waka bringing the warrior home. He spoke too of this warrior being a taonga. And in fact, when the karanga, poroporo aki, that I mentioned before, was rung out at the same time as the pipes played, apparently the karanga had only ever been used once before, and that was when the Te Māori exhibition came back to New Zealand. So another taonga returns.
Tolling out from that great carillon, Rangi Marie, the peace bell. It's welcome home, really.
Māori concert group will actually also sing a waiata which greeted the return of the Māori taonga following the exhibition in the USA in the 70s. The waiata Te Hukinga Mai we'll be hearing, I think, here.
Before that, we'll be hearing the Flanders Field, sung by the Dunedin RSA choir, who are there ready to begin that waiata. As the interment service continues, the warrior's going to be honoured in words and in song, specially composed for today. Vincent O'Sullivan, with a very moving poem that he's prepared or written, is right, Homecoming, Te Hokinga Mai. And also, we're going to hear a setting to music of the words that are written around the edge of the tomb. The words are absolutely beautiful, to do with our regret at the long wait for his return. And the setting has been composed by the national carillonist, Timothy Hurd. But first, it'll be In Flanders Field. Colonel Andrew Renton Green, Chair of the National War Memorial Advisory Committee, will invite Her Excellency,
Your Excellencies, Prime Minister,
to deliver the eulogy.
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you here today as participants in this unique national event. In World War I, 100,444 New Zealanders left New Zealand for service with the expeditionary forces. Close to half the male population aged between 20 and 45. Some 18,000 of these New Zealanders died during that war. The final resting place of very many of them is unknown. This poem, in a letter from a relative of one of these men. Killed in action, said the cable. That is all the tale they tell of the brave young lad who loved us, of the lad we loved so well. How the life was sped, we know not. What the last word, look, or thought, only that he did his duty, died as bravely as he fought. The tomb of the unknown warrior serves as a perpetual tribute to these New Zealanders, a reminder to us all of their sacrifice, their belief in and respect for nation, their determination and courage, and their unity of purpose. Visitors to our National War Memorial will remember with gratitude and pride the ultimate contribution of all New Zealanders who have died in all wars, those known and those whose identity and final resting place remain unknown. It is with humility and pride that I accept, on behalf of the National War Memorial Advisory Council, our unknown warrior, and with him the responsibility for his care and safekeeping at this place of honour and remembrance, a place which ensures that we never forget. I invite Her Excellency, the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief, to deliver her eulogy.
Please be seated. E te toa matangaro, warrior without name. Ko koe te tahi I haere ki te pai o te pakanga. You were one of many who marched to the theatre of war. Ko koe te tahi I ti mungia e te tai. You were one of many taken by the ebbing tide. Ko koe kua hoki mai, ki tō whenua, he tohu aroha, mō rātou katoa kua riro I te mura o te riri. You have come home to your land as a symbol of love for all who were taken by the flames of anger. E te toa matangaro, e tā koto, e mwe, e oki oki. O unknown warrior, may you now rest in peace. 27,000 of our people, 27,000 New Zealanders have died in wars in other countries. 1/3 still lie in unmarked places or in the graves of the unknown. Today, in the respect and feeling we bring to the burial of one of these, we honour all those others whose names, like his, we shall never know. Yet what we do know is that he, like each of them, was one of us. This young man left his country almost 90 years ago. He fought in the most savage war history has yet seen. He died with countless thousands of other young men on the Western Front in France, at the center of that war's devastation. He died wearing a New Zealand uniform and shared with those he had left on the other side of the world his belief that the lives of many might be better by risking his own. His was the hope that when the days, the years of fighting were done, and the troop ships sailed south, he would return to what mattered most, to be with the people he came from, to live again with the coasts of his own country around him, among the hills he knew as a boy, in the streets where he had grown up. These are the simple things he left and gave his life for. And now we have brought him home. We think of how many he stands for, this unknown warrior. How many were like himself, and yet how individual he was. We wonder as we bury him, what was he like, this boy, this man? Did he come in from some distant camp, or along a northern beach, or walk out of the bush to enlist for what he believed was right? Did he close the gates on a milking shed for the last time before setting off to town? Did he leave a factory bench or an office desk, park his truck and give his mate the key, walk from the classroom where he taught, or put down his tools, thinking it would not be long until he came back to them? Or cross the plains where he had spent his life and was farewelled by the singing on his marae, or by a service in his church? Did he get a lift to the local station and see his family on the veranda as the train went past, or catch the last sight of his parents or his children, his wife or his girlfriend waved at from a carriage window from the deck of a departing ship? He could be any of those young men. He may have been remarkable or ordinary. He may have loved parties or was one who liked to be alone. He may have walked for miles to borrow a book or counted the days to next Saturday's game, or worried about his job, or hoped the girl on the tram would talk to him. What he wanted was what the young always and rightly expect: to live in peaceful times, to work at what he chose, to be with those he loved. Here is the young New Zealander who takes this place of honor for himself and for those in his own or any war we have been a part of, where what we value and what defined us was defended. In honoring him, we honor too his family, their memories of a place and a time, with that saddest of words, unknown. I end with what a soldier at the end of the Second World War wrote of his contemporaries. They are words that ring as true of any generation, of those New Zealanders who put their lives at risk for what makes us the people we are. Everything that was good from that small, remote country had gone into them: sunshine and strength, good sense, patience, the versatility of practical men. They had confidence in themselves, knowing themselves as good as the best in the world could bring against them. And they marched into history. It is one of these we now commit to his country's most honoured grave. After almost a century, he has come back. Because of him, home is a better place.